Rolling up the sleeves?
Hello everyone and welcome to Action RPG Build Guide Edition. Today I'm ready to drop on you my new Frenzy Barbarian for Diablo 4. Absolutely crushing content, it's a blast to play. As always, I will cover every single facet of the build. Everything is timestamped in the description below if you need to bounce around. But before we do that, huge shout out to my friends, the sponsors of today's video, the Crimson Market. Now, if you're currently playing Diablo 4, you should definitely be a part of the Crimson Market. It has some of the best tools on the internet for buying and selling loot for Diablo 4. It also has a state-of-the-art in-game overlay where you could sell your items directly from the game without needing to Alt-Tab or needing a separate monitor. Functions really, really well. But that's not all. The Crimson Market also has the Crimson Club, and these guys build a custom state-of-the-art PC every single 30 days and give it away to their club members. And the next one that is going out is the Transformers Bumblebee PC. This will be given away on Woody's stream in 11 days, and they currently have a promotion with the Crimson Market Golden Ticket to enter the club free for a 30-day Royal Tiers. So you should definitely check out the Crimson Market. Awesome guys. Thank you so much for sponsoring today's video. All right, so let's start off with some gameplay. Now, I wanted to start with something easy to just show the power of this build. This is a Nightmare Dungeon 100, and we are going to tear through these enemies like they're paper thin. We are almost unkillable. And obviously this is a basic build, so we're using Frenzy as our damage dealer. I think right now I've got 12 points into Frenzy, and we are not using a Shaco, just so you're well. So if you had a Shaco, you would have 16 points to Frenzy. Now we are using Tyrael's Might. That's how we're basically able to shoot with this build. We're using Triple Shouts and Wrath of the Berserker. So we're just gonna go through this Nightmare Dungeon. We'll get to the boss, and I will show you how fast, hopefully, we kill said boss. Now we do use Charge with the build as our movement skill, and I do use Ancestral Charge. Every once in a while, since we're using Frenzy, you need something to reposition or to kill a bunch of enemies, and Charge does that very, very well. Also, when you hit an enemy with Charge, you are going to trigger Berserking from the skill tree, so it's just another way to help with Berserking. We're also using Tusk Helm, and Tusk Helm's gonna enrage us when we hit Warcry or Berserk when we're already Berserking, so it functions really well. So this is a Nightmare Dungeon 100, right? We're done. Let me show you the boss fight. We have everything off cooldown. Watch this. Mother's Judgment, hello. Nightmare Dungeon 100. Done. Now let me show you a T6 Infernal Horde boss fight. Now what you are looking at right now is the brand new Infernal Horde mode for Diablo 4 Season 5 that is a core mechanic. These are the triple level 160 bosses at the end of a tier 6 run. As you can see, revives, I have 2. No deaths in this fight. We are practically unkillable because we are so tough. And boss 1 down, boss 2 down, and this is the third boss at level 160. Tick, tick, tick. And the Shadow, stop running away, is dead. Let me show you how to recreate this build. So now let's break down the skills, starting with our damage dealer, Frenzy. Right now I've got 12 points into Frenzy, and I am not using a Shaco. If I had a Shaco, I would have 16 points into Frenzy, which would feel really, really nice. And of course, we're taking Combat Frenzy, which is you're going to gain 8% damage reduction for each stack of Frenzy, and you're going to have 5 stacks up all the time. Nothing in our core skills. We are spec'd into Triple Shout for this build, so we're taking Rallying Cry, and we're going to be building Fortify. We're taking Challenging Shout, and we're going to take Fury Generation on hit. And we are taking Warcry, and in this case, we are doubling up on Fortify just to give you more survivability. If you feel like that's too much Fortify, and you do like a little bit of added clear speed, you can take Power Warcry, but just know this does not help you during boss fights. So for me, I'd rather take the added survivability. We also have 3 points in Imposing Presence, which is going to give you maximum life, and 3 points into Vigor, which is going to give you damage reduction against elites. As we come down, we are taking charge once again. Absolutely love this skill, especially when you use Ancestral Charge with it. Just helps with clear speed so much. And every time we hit an enemy with charge, we're going to be triggering Berserking. And on one of my tempered weapons, I have 110% increased Berserking duration. So really, you're going to be getting anywhere from 6 or 7 seconds every single time you hit an enemy with charge. And you'll get Berserking when you trigger Warcry. As we come down, we have 3 into Pit Fighter. This is going to give you multiplicative damage to close enemies and more damage reduction, and multiplicative damage to injured enemies. This just helps bring down the damage when they're low. We are obviously into Fortify Heavy for this build, so we also have Counter Offensive, which is while you have over 50% Fortify, you deal 12% multiplicative damage. I currently have no points into Duelist, but as you can see during the gear portion, our Frenzy Amulet is giving us 8 points right now, so you don't need to invest anything. And right here, we are using Wrath of the Berserker with Unconstrained. Those are the skills. So now let's talk Paragon boards, and we have 7 of them, and I'm going to go board by board showing you what I've done. So on the first one, it's really important for us to make enemies vulnerable, so that is why we take Exploit on our first board. Moving on up to board number 2, we are using Warbringer, and the glyph that we are using is Wrath. This is going to give us a boost to our critical strike damage, and skills that critically strike will generate Fury. This is how we stay in the positive category when we're using a sword that every basic attack costs 25 Fury. Also on here, we're taking Maximum Fury because this is going to give us 8 multiplicative damage to our Magnum Opus. As we move over to board number 3, we are now in Carnage. And the glyph that we are using is Ire. This is going to give us 52% damage while berserking. And while berserking, you take 10% reduced damage from elites. Also on here, we're taking damage while berserking and berserk duration. Moving up to board number 4. Board number 4. And this board is Blood Rage. And the glyph that we are using is Undaunted. Undaunted is going to give us damage reduction while fortified and gain up to 10% damage reduction more while fortified. On here, Blood Rage, very important node, which is going to give us 30% multiplicative damage. On here as well, we're taking damage while berserking, and again, berserking duration. Moving on to board number 5, we are using Flawless Technique, and Flawless Technique is going to give us 8% additional critical strike chance. And the glyph that we are using is Ambidextrous. This is going to give us a big boost to critical strike damage when you're using a one-handed weapon. On here as well, you're going to get damage with one-handed weapon, and you're going to get a boost to your armor. Board number 6, we are using Bonebreaker, and the glyph that we are using is Seething. This is going to give you more damage when you use a sword. And on here as well, you're going to get damage reduction while healthy and damage with swords. Board number 7, we're going to bounce down now, right here. And this board is Weapons Master. And the glyph that we are using is Territorial. This is damage to close enemies and damage reduction to close enemies. Those are the Paragon boards. Moving over to Diablo 4 builds, where we're going to break down the gear for our Frenzy Barbarian, and we're going to go through them one at a time, starting with the helmet. We are using the Tusk Helm, which is going to give you buffs to all things berserking and have a chance to put you into an enraged state. For our chest armor, we're using Aspect of Might, damage reduction while basic for basic skills. Gloves, we're using Ancestral Charge, which is going to help you with clear speed and honestly just repositioning. It's a very big quality of life aspect. Pants, we're using Will, and this is going to trigger based upon every time we use charge. It's going to help you with your Fury generation, and it's going to give you multiplicative damage and Unstoppable. Boots, we're using Hectic. After casting 5 basic skills, your cooldowns are reduced by 2 seconds. You are maximum attack speed, so this helps like crazy. For our two-handed weapon, we're using Moonrise, which is going to give you up to an 80% multiplicative damage when you're in Vampiric Blood Rage for your basic skills, and it's going to buff your movement speed. We're using Magnum Opus. This is going to give us over a 100% multiplicative when you are maxed on your resources. We're using the new Shard Sword, which is going to give you up to 200% multiplicative damage on your basic skills. but now you have to worry about Fury. We're using Edge Masters, an additional 20% multiplicative. We are using Ring of the Starless Sky. Now, I know this is a mythic. I know it is very hard to get. Okay, so we'll talk through this in a second. For the ring, we are using Ring of Adaptability. This is an additional 80% multiplicative. And then we're using Battle Trance, of course, which is going to be your Frenzy Ring, which also got a buff that's going to give you crit chance, damage, Frenzy, Duelist, and multiplicative to Frenzy. So that is our gear. Now, using this sword right here, making a basic attack that has maximum attack speed, 25 primary resource, it is very, very hard to maintain your Fury. And the only way that I could figure out how to do this in the most easy possible state is Ring of the Starless Sky. Spending your primary resource reduces the resource cost of the skill and increases your damage by 10% multiplicative for 3 seconds, up to 50% multiplicative. It just makes it where you don't have to worry about the resources as much. So just know that for this build, we are using Ring of the Starless Skies. Now, Aaron, what if I'm grinding? What if I have a ton of mythical unique items? Okay, this is what you would want. Edge Masters. You would want Grandfather. Chest Armor. You would want Tyraels. Helm. You would want Shaco. Save. So this is how you would want it built out if you can get your hands on lots of purple items. And Tyraels Might makes it where you don't have to worry about resistances. So then your gems would all move to skulls to boost your armor. So this would be like the true end game build out if you had access to your mythical items. Okay. For the technique, you want to set it to a two-handed axe. You want to set your frenzy, obviously, to dual wielding, and you want to set your charge to slashing. So that is the breakdown for the gear and the gems. Now, when you come down to gear stats, all right, you want on your gloves, damage to close, boots, cooldown reduction, damage to close on your ring, on your weapon, damage to close. Pretty simple. We're also taking Berserking Duration. We're taking cooldown for Wrath of the Berserker. And then we are taking Lucky Hit has a chance to stun. And you could put this on your boots. You could put it on your gloves. And if you didn't have Tyraels, you could throw it right here on your chest armor. That way you have up to a 50% chance to stun on a lucky hit. But that is the gear. All right, everyone, that's the build guide. What do you think of my new and refreshed Frenzy Barbarian? Is there anything I missed? Is there anything I could do to take this to the next level? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. A couple of asks at the end. I'm hoping today is the day I have earned your subscription. I'm hoping today is the day you make the decision to push that little red button. I would really appreciate it, but of course, only if you think I've earned it. And if I haven't earned it, I'm going to work harder for you. Ask number 2, check out my Patreon. Thank you to the first 140 members that have signed up. We have game night and movie night coming up for August. You get exclusive content. You get access to the VIP lounge. It is the second link in the description. Lastly, get into my Discord. We're approaching 4,300 members, all things action RPG. And we do a giveaway every single 2 weeks for just being a member of the community, so you can hang out with some of the best people on the internet. I'm done. Hopefully you're entertained or at least learned something. Aaron out.